I better leave now.
All right, then.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Let me see here. We got online. Just waiting on Twitch and YouTube. Okay, here we go. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the live and replay. It's our fourth show, fourth and final. No, it's our fourth of, I can barely talk. I had to take a nap. It's our fourth of 5 shows today. We're going to have another one shortly after this one. We've got some new friends in the house, a couple of beautiful, beloved sisters in the house. We're going to get to know them in just a second. But let's see, we got about, I'm going to let people come in a little bit. We got 10. Let's see if they're all connected. Yeah, here we go. Now they're coming. All right, so we're going to play our intro real quick. We'll be back in a minute, 19 seconds with Heather and Louise. Be right back. How's it going, everybody? A couple of quick announcements. If you haven't made it over to the SOULSPEAKS.com, please go pay us a visit. Check out our Soulspeaks swag at the Soulspeaks store. It's just a way to support what we're doing. This will always be a free community service. We're working on implementing our first of the first 4 channels that will run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year with replays and lives. We're in the process of attracting magnetically and otherwise the abundance necessary. We're getting some of it, and thank you all for your love and support and contributions that allow us to do that and to keep doing this every day. We're getting some hardware, some software, and making some other changes in our technology so that we can facilitate that. And other than that, welcome to the show, Heather and Louise. Thank you for coming in and sharing space. Thank you for reaching out to me and Morgan and Soulspeaks to come on and share your energy with us. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kia ora, Todd and Morgan. Thank you very much for having us, taking the risk and having a couple of hybrid Aussies on.
Well, we're all hybrids. We're all mutts. And I think that's a big part of what's coming into our field now is that all lines of separation, those lines of distinction that are not actually separate, separate energies. They're all the same energy, whether it be, culture, country, creed, sexual preference, religion, whatever, we're all the same. We're all universal mutts here on this beautiful planet. I have to, whenever I come on with a new person or a new people, I like to ask them, when did you wake up? Were you always this weird, or did you develop it later through a reawakening experience? And in your case, how did y'all meet, and what's the story behind that?
How much time have you got?
Yeah.
How long is this? I mean,
we got time. We'll just let it flow. We're good.
You've gone and handed us a look at. So,
got a bit of a.
That's another story. So we've got 2 completely different backgrounds. I grew up in the South Island of New Zealand, and I was born awake, and I shut it down when I was a kid because of things that were happening to me. And some of the things that were happening to me, without going into too much detail, was, and I discovered later what this exactly was that I was being taken by the Greys for experimentation by their masters. So, as a kid, I went through all these horrific experiences in my deep sleep in other states, and it was really messy, and I was often, fighting and battling with energy. And so I had no reference point for it at all anywhere in the 60s in the South Island of New Zealand. It's not the sort of thing you talked about at school. So I shut everything down, and I reawoke myself when I was about 28. I got very sick. I was living in Australia by then, and I got very ill with an autoimmune condition that doctors knew nothing about, and tried to ply me with all sorts of their wonderful pills, and I rejected everything, went completely down an alternative healing route, and went inside and became the hermit for many years to self-discover who I was. I was living a life of quite heavy partying, etc. Prior to that, quite lost, but, became quite lost in the end, but went back into my own spiritual self-discovery. So in my late 20s, they used to call it Saturn return. Around about the harmonic convergence, that's when I went back in for self-discovery, and that's when I really did discover my spiritual connections, and it's been ongoing ever since. It's been ongoing ever since.
That's a pretty common story, actually. The people come on this show, almost 2,500 episodes. They had it when they had some sense of it when they were born. They shut it down because there wasn't a box for them to fit in because they weren't in a box, and then they reawoke. And that's interesting too, that you were way back in 1987, the harmonic convergence. What about you, Louise?
Wow. One day there was this little girl who got born in Africa, and then what was used to be called Rhodesia. That's me. The weirdest thing is, I always used to, when people ask me this question, I always used to think, I didn't wake up till I met Heather, and that was in 2008 when she did some energy work with me, and I started to levitate off the table. But she can tell more of that story a little bit later on. And, and then as I sort of discovered and sort of gone into myself and looked at my own history, I realized I was awake as a very young child, because one of my favorite places to play in Africa was in my backyard in the sandpit that my dad made. And I had these friends that would just pop around and come and play. And I always thought that their mom and dad or their mums were in the house with my mum, right? Because, that was how you had play dates back in the day. And we would play in the sandpit. But the difference is they would suddenly turn around and grab my hand and say, well, one of them in particular would say, "Are you ready to go? Shall we go?" And I would go, "Oh, where are we going now?" And I'm like 3, 4, 5 years of age. And all of a sudden I would find myself back. Seriously, I would just be taken back in time to either like early Americas with the covered wagons. And I would either be the Indian, American Indian, or I would be a sort of a what do you call them, the cowboy sort of style, the settlers going in, or I would be up in a spaceship, or I would be on another planet, or I would be literally out there studying stars, and I was never a child. As soon as I went with my friends, I was this expanded energy. I felt arrows go through me. I felt bullets go through me. I felt, I've had all of these sensory experiences. I've touched the night sky or the void. And the only way I can try and describe it to people is like, imagine velvet in the most softest, furriest sort of way, and then as soon as you touch it, it just kind of melts and covers your hand. And it's just the most awesome thing. When I was on a spaceship, I didn't know I was on a spaceship. I just knew I was on this thing, and I would look down and there would be all these planets around me, and I would be telling people what to do and how to do things. And I'm like, I'd run back inside and I'd go, Mom, this is what happened. And she was just like,
great imagination.
Wow.
Great imagination.
We both had great imagination.
And this sort of thing, my dreams, my sort of like experiences continued till I was about 11. I would pick things up and I would see what was in the parcel. I'd be able to sense all sorts of stuff from an object that I picked up. And I only found out that was called psychometry and all the rest of it as I was talking to Heather back, in the late 30s.
Well, you guys obviously were made for each other.
Well, I think so.
Talk about a
On a
perfect
good day,
fit.
on a good day, that's true.
You know, but like Heather, I shut my stuff down when I was 11. My dad died, and my dad was like the pillar of my life, because he would always say, you know, my mom would always say, oh, I wish she'd be a little bit more like girlish, and my dad would say, she's a tomboy, but she's my princess, so let her be what she wants to be. Just let her express. She will find her path. And he never judged me for anything that I did. I mean, he was a disciplinarian. If I broke the boundaries, I was, you know, there was consequences. But when he died when I was 11, I shut everything down until, and I actually went on a very religious path. I became so ingrained in the charismatic movement that I did 3 and a bit years of theology to be a theologian, and I've actually got my associate degree, and I was going to be a preacher. Wow. I was going to get out in the world, and I was going to preach hellfire and brimstone to anybody that would listen to me.
Wow.
So obviously something had to shift before I met her.
Yeah.
Oh, it shifted before you met her.
Yeah. So I actually left. I left the church and left Africa back in 2002.
Okay.
And shifted to New Zealand because, as universe would have it, I had a really strong world grandfather who moved from New Zealand through the Great Depression in the 1930s and immigrated to Africa and moved his way up into the then Southern Rhodesians, et cetera, et cetera. So because of that, I had New Zealand citizenship through descendancy, and I could settle in New Zealand. So it took me from 2002 to 2008 to actually meet this one.
Wow.
But it was all my own. It was my
Yeah.
preparation. It was the universe working with me to let go of all the dogma that I have so imbued inside of me.
Yeah.
But to also show me the unique nuggets of the truth that is actually hidden in the teachings of the scriptures or ancient texts, you want to call it, because this is what I have discovered through all of the channeling and all of the stuff that I brought through, is there is so much that's been ripped away from us and wrapped up in dogma. And if we can define that, if we can distill it down, we suddenly find that we've got the keys to empower ourselves, not only just through the religious texts that are out there, but all the other things, you know, the Quran, et cetera, the Sumerian text, you know, we can go for friggin' ages talking about this sort of stuff. But it all boils down to the fact that we are a singular entity that has come to experience here. And we've been born in this on this planet way back to from the information that I've been brought through is we are Terrans. We're not Earthlings, we're not humans. Humans are actually something else. But we're originally Terrans, and it's that Terran part of us that's still in our DNA that, you know, there's so much that the outside, let's just call them the outside shadow masters, wants to delete from us. And that's a whole different story. And I don't want to jump right into there, but, you know, this is my history. Like,
yeah, I got you. I want to go back to the Terrans. I've never heard that before, but we'll do that in a minute. What I want to find out is, so you cleared your vessel, you cleared your container, and in preparation for this session that you went in for with Heather in 2008, right? So what happened at that session, and how did this connection go when y'all connected?
Okay, well, yeah, good question. And I just want to shout out to all the Kiwis on board at the moment. Kia ora, those watching now and watching later, g'day, how are you? And Australia as well, down under. Be strong, remember your Terran roots, remember who you truly are. I was a wild woman. I used to like having a years, which was not a very healthy relationship. And I just got out of all of that. So I was like reliving my teen years again when Louise came along and had eyes for me. And I thought, and I didn't want anyone to have eyes for me. I wanted to be this wild child, you know, still. But she was pretty sure that I was the one, and I wasn't so sure about that because she had a little bit of baggage, as we all do. And I thought, I don't know, I want to have that baggage in my bedroom. so to speak, you know. So that's the human part of me. But it was interesting because she persisted in a really nice way. And it was interesting because I was able to tap in energetically at a higher level. And I remember walking along the beach at Lyell Bay in Wellington, New Zealand with her and going, oh my God, I know this energy. Who is this energy? Where did we first meet? How do I know this energy? It was this monstrous, great, comforting energy that I knew at a higher level. And it was very peaceful. It was very right. And I thought, wonder what this is about. And I didn't overthink it. I just let things unfold. Anyway, one day I said, look, would you like me to do some energy healing work with you? Because, you know, I just allowed myself to be the conduit of the universal energy. And I'd worked with the reconnection energies as well. And she said, yeah, sure. And she was a little bit nervous and a little bit green behind the ears because she'd not long come out of the church scenario, the dogma, quite a lot of dogma, whereas I had never been interested in that. I was a free flower, very much a hippie free flowing type.
You were a wild ass like me.
Oh, yeah, I was a wild ass. My ass was so wild it was on fire sometimes. And so anyway, I got her on the massage table, and within 15 minutes, Todd, I kid you not, she started levitating off this bloody table.
Is that right? Had that ever happened to you before?
Never, not ever happened since. And I thought, holy, beep, 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 beep. I better stop now in case I get arrested for having a body floating out the door, you know, or something, you know, the authorities go, you know, blah, blah. So I said, I didn't say that to her, but I just said very calmly, I'm just going to put you back now because, you know, just so you can go and absorb that, because she was resonating and registering, if you know anything about energy work and healing, she was registering so strongly. I mean, people do register. Normally when I was working with people, I do have people having a response, even if they've never had a response before, but this one was like heightened. And so I said, just go and assimilate that. So she went away for about 1 or 2 hours.
I said, I'm tired now. I think I need to go sleep.
So she popped away and I thought, my goodness, what's going to happen now? And she came back and she said, oh, I had all these lines. What were the lines? Blue and red lines.
Like, it's probably about an inch or maybe 5 centimeters in length, and about as fat as my finger. So blue going up, red coming down, just like this continual up, down all over my body. And I can remember sort of like, well, Heather was working on me. I sort of looking at myself, and it was just like seeing all of this happen. And then, you know, literally like a screen appearing in front of me, and I was like, the symbols on the keypad was just, I'd never seen them before. I sort of realized that it's galactic language, and I was like operating this keyboard. Things were happening in front of me like on a big screen, and I was in heaven. I was just like, this is cool. This I'm used to. Some part of me recognized what was happening.
Yeah, so she came back in the room and described some of this, and then she said, all the static in my head has gone, and now there's a clear voice and it's got something to say. And she sat down on the chair and went into full trance channel.
Was that the first time you ever channeled? Wow. So this was like an activation on multiple levels.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, well, she'd done a little bit of speaking in tongues, they call it in the church, but this apparently was the full
this
Monty.
was a full Monty.
Full Monty. And I'd been around a lot of quality channelers with my own self-discovery over the years, you know, Lee Carroll, with Cryon Energy and other really good quality channels. So I knew what was happening. And so I assumed the position of grounder and challenger automatically. It was automatic for me to go, okay, who are you? What's your credibility? Answer some questions. And so this whole partnership started developing.
Wow. Well, there's one thing that.
Todd, I could just.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. There's a bit of a lag. I wasn't trying to interrupt. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, when Heather said, I sort of said it was like the static, it literally was like, do you remember the old dial radios that you used to really have to fine tune? Because in my head, I had a consistent thing since I was a child of this, almost this back noise. It's in my ear. I'd been to doctors and everything like that, and it was all in my head. But this time after getting off the table, it was like when I went to sleep, it was like, and here is the news. I mean, it was that crystal clear kind of thing, that messaging that came through. So
wow,
that's to just try and give a little bit of a context of what I was hearing to the crystal clear information that just flowed through me.
wow.
And interestingly enough, Todd, the first energy she brought through was a galactic Pleiadian energy. And we probably never got his name right. We call them Platorans. It's a very long name with lots of sounds and bells and whistles, but we've done our best with the translation and also to make it easier for the human mind. And that was the first energy that she brought through. And I was the skeptic as well. I was surprised and amazed, but I certainly wasn't a guppy, as we say. I was certainly also the skeptic. So I sat her down before I went to Arizona. No, yes, I did. I went to Sedona to the Cryon Summer Conference in 2008, and I was already planned that. So I said, well, if you're real, you need to tell me some things that are going to be happening when I get there, and you need to be specific. So I got Lou and Trance Channel, and back then it was a tape recorder. Taped it, wrote some notes, and this energy, Platorans, was very specific about different things, what people would look like and what they would say to me. And all these things came true. And I'd never met these people before. It was just mind-blowing. So it was like there is no time. So by
the time you got back, you were in total surrender to Louise.
Oh my God! Lou was freaking out. Lou was going, because there's a ghost in our house too. It's house sitting. So that was
it's just par for the course for you guys.
Yeah. So we had training wheels galore, and Lou's from a motel, and she's going, "Oh, there's a ghost in there. I'm scared." I'm going, "Don't worry about it. Just tell it to go." Now, anyway, about the channeling.
And I'm literally ready to pack my bags and exit this house. It's so freaky.
So all of a sudden, my life that I've been tapping, I wonder when there's going to be a bit of action energetically. It starts arriving with our partnership, and around that, of course, the romance starts to blossom as well. So it's a very strong infinity symbol between us. It's actually quite incredible. So I came back excited, you're right, and went, hey, we need to do this because this is natural.
Now the tables are turned. The pursuer is now being pursued.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right.
But
there's one of the things that's happening, in this multifaceted transition we call ascension, is the birthing of this third energy. Some people call it golden child energy. There are different, it doesn't have to be romantic, but there are many cases where it's a romantic partnership along with everything else. And that is that when two people such as yourselves come together, a third energy is created, and it can be seen both etherically, and of course, much of that's starting to be seen in the physical experience that we all share. It sounds like from that point that you guys, formed a multifaceted partnership, and part of that, I would imagine, is representative of that third energy. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah. We've been described as the positive and negative of a battery, and when that comes together, it creates something else.
Yeah.
In fact, somebody actually described, they were standing in front of us watching Heather and I do some energy work when we were working with somebody, and they just were staring and staring and staring, and it was a little bit unnerving to begin with, and then we just thought, it's just the person. And after we'd finished, they came over to us and they said, I've got to tell you what I've been looking at. And that's when he described how the energy would flow between one and the other and bounce backwards. And he said, you're like a battery. When you come together, the two ends of the battery, the positive and the negative, and it's just like this current of energy flowing backwards and forwards. And it was, and that was not the first time somebody said that. A lot of other people started telling us things like that. And, so now we just go, okay, but that's what happens between us.
But ultimately, it's not about us. It's about what we do with this. And that's the thing. And that's been challenging. I'm going to say at a human level, it's been really challenging. We've been through some really full-on challenges. We've had a lot of different energy come at us to try and distract us, separate us. and put us off course, and we've managed at times to put ourselves off course with our own behaviours. So it's been a major challenge, but through each challenge we have become stronger and stronger and stronger, and the move to Australia has been very, very important for us. Something has completely opened up in the energy. We've had this expanse and this ultra connection with lots of different other beings, humans as well, and it's been an incredible opening. But you know, as long as we're in balance, the fullness and highest energy connection can come through for service to others. If we get distracted and thrown off balance, man, you know, it's not going to be the quality that we wish to attain to. So it's not all love and roses, I can tell you that. We've had to really deal with a lot of our inner dark side of ourselves, and that's what we encourage everybody to do at the moment. There's no point pointing the finger outside.
Exactly.
Unless we can integrate their darkness and that within ourselves, then we're not going to be attaining our truth and sovereignty.
Yeah,
very true. And we certainly can relate to that over here. We've only been connected for a little over 5 years. We both she'd done a tremendous amount of work on herself. I was just in the early days of it. I didn't even know what shadow work was until I met her. But what I'm getting at is that I can't imagine. I have talked to some couples that have been together over 12 years, but not too many. And I can't imagine navigating this transition in a relationship, because there is a lot of press out there in the light worker community about people coming together. And of course, you see a lot of them, you know, go like that. And some of them come back together and such, but it's a lot of work. You're right. It's not all, just because there's a romantic aspect to it doesn't mean it's all peaches and cream. It is mission related, at least in some extent, right?
Well, it is mission related, and Steve Rother in the group, who I was watching at the time around about 2007, I had a personal session with Steve in the group, and he told me, or the group I should say, told me via him that I was going to be meeting somebody within the next 7 or 8 months, and that was in 2007, after I was extracting myself from a very unhealthy relationship, and I was sworn off relationships for a long time, in my mind anyway. And I said, are you positive? And he said, they're telling me you're going to be meeting someone in the next 7 or 8 months. I said, well, that's pretty bad timing for my mind. And he said, well, they're telling me that. And he said, it's going to be romance, but it's of service. You've got a relationship of service. And I went, oh, holy heck. Anyway, holy heck. And so I let it go. And who turns up within that time frame?
Yeah.
But, you know, this one. So I didn't say anything to her at the time, but it became apparent.
But you also told her it was a masculine energy or something like that.
It was told it was a masculine energy too. I said, you sure? I sort of do have a preference towards women, without putting any labels on anything. He said, well, well, it could be a woman, but it's a masculine energy. And Lou presents in a very masculine way at times. So that all fits as well, you know. So it's like,
you can't make this shift up. You can't. You cannot make it up. No.
You can't make it up. In fact, we need to write our book, our joint book, I think. Lou's been writing books, channeling books out. The latest one, if I can just say, is the Lyran Disclosure, book 1 and book 2. And it started in 2018. And the one that's just hot off the press right now, we've just taken it to Paradigm Shift on the Gold Coast last weekend, is the Lyran Disclosure, Book 2, The Anunnaki Influence. Now, all of this is channeled via the Lyrans to Lou, and you couldn't make that up, because it's totally explains why we are in the situation that we're in on our planet at the moment.
Wow, far out. Now, I want to get into what you guys do together and individually, your skills, abilities, higher sensitivities, and of course your mission-oriented purposes. But I want to ask you, because I never heard that term before, what are tyrants?
ANS, and we don't.
Oh, you were saying Lyrans. Oh, I thought you meant earlier.
Tyrants.
Tyrants. Sorry.
Tyrant. I'm sorry. Forgive the Texas accent. Tyrants. Whatever. Yeah. What is that? I've never
the original Tyrants. I'll let Lou explain that. She may actually slip into channel also. I have a feeling that I can feel the energy is very, very close now. But
when Okay, so Todd, when I back in 2018, when the Lyran community and energies first started to reconnect with me and just put things in front of me to see if I could bring through the truth of their story from their perspective, and I as well was challenging them and making sure that I was getting the right information and that it wasn't just some thing off off the cuff, so to speak. They introduced the whole history of who they are, where they're from, and how they are interconnected with our planet and our species. The only thing is we all believe that humans have always been around, or galactic humans, etc., etc. And they introduced our history to me from their perspective of how they first knew of, and I'm going to try and pronounce the name correctly. I still get a little bit tongue twisted. The planet we live on, according to her galactic or her universal name that they were given, is Terra Van Lish Gaia, which is where we get the Gaia from.
Okay.
It's a really long name, and they've written it out in the books that I've written, and they, for short, they call it Tignaya. And Tignaya and the universe brought through a species of humanoid beings that were literally, she took probably a good couple of years in negotiations, in conference calls, so to speak, meeting with the other planetary energies of sentient beings that are the planet makers or the builders of the originals, etc., before bringing this species through that looked like us. Yes, definitely, we look like them, but they were called Terrans, Terrans, Terrans.
Okay.
And they were made from the very elements of liquid gold, liquid silver, liquid ruby, liquid, a lot of the different origins of the earth, which is why we can trace elements of ourselves in conjunction with the earth. Yeah. But what got me was I had never heard, and I did not know that there was gold in our blood.
Yeah.
I wasn't very into science or biology when I was at school. I wish I had been, but I wasn't. Anyway, they gave me all this information, and then when they said and she pulled the gold and the silver, it was like, nah, come on, this is like a little bit of science fiction. And they refused to write through me anymore until I actually went onto a medical site and checked out that there was an element of gold in our blood, and there's a certain percentage of gold in our blood that is necessary. It's a required thing for our cellular construct. And so that blew me away. So once I got my head around that, the rest of the information came through. So basically, Gaia brings through the Terrans onto this earth. These Terrans are connected empathically, connected third eye, connected. And they're probably the best that we could ever hope to be.
Right.
Then you got the Anunnakis coming through that completely took advantage of them because these guys were innocent. They hadn't had the interaction with a negative force.
Can I just say something? At this point, there's a lot of information around at the moment, and has been for a while, that humans are a slave race and that the Anunnaki created us. In actual fact, the original Terrans were here before the Anunnaki, and the Lyran, galactic humanoid race, ancient, were here before the original Terrans were created, but they left in order for the original Terrans within Gaia and the universe to be coming up and created. So we've been fed a whole lot of hogwash. Even within our, we can take back that DNA foothold and sovereignty and knowing of truth about being original Terran. And many of us will resonate with that. Some people won't resonate with that.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. But
no, I had a lucid dream a few months ago, and it follows that. I didn't hear that name, but it follows suit with what you're saying. Yeah, so I can see, and I can also see what you're saying, Heather, as well, because there's some, there's some kind of overlap with some of the narratives out there with what the channels that the Lyrians have supplied here. Now, what about in terms of what you guys do? I know that you are a trance channeler, Heather, and I know from what you said you're a hands-on practitioner, but I know you guys probably both do more. What do you guys do? What do you guys do individually, and do you work together as well?
We play table tennis. What else do we do? Oh, you didn't.
Oh, we cook.
We love working together.
Yeah.
We run workshops. We've got online courses. Crushing Self-Sabotage is the one we did together, and that's really about really dealing with your stuff at a base level. So we've got a lot of online courses. We run workshops together. Lou channels workshops, and she's channeled 2-day workshops, plus we've done channel retreats where Lou's in channel with one of the team for 7 days off and on, and that's pretty mind-blowing. We do energy healing work. Lou brings through an ancient energy called the Ancient One, which is, she trance channels that, and works with the healing arts with people. I'm doing all the talking here. But yeah, energy, information, guidance, personal sessions, particularly Lou does personal trance channel sessions for people, for clients around the world. I mentor people one-on-one if they're looking for assistance and dealing with different things, all of that stuff. What else? Tour Gaia, sacred site tours to Africa, which is sort of on hold at the moment, but we will be getting back out there. We did that, and we met up with Michael Tellinger last year and took a group over there, and we had a mind-blowing time.
That sounds fascinating. That sounds fascinating. So you guys really are two pieces that fit perfectly together. You didn't have to go through any type of what I want to say, like initiation period or probationary period, like in the early days, where you actually had, because you actually had to pull together not just the romantic part, doing the shadow clearing and the typical stuff, but you also had to fit in your gifts and abilities and fuse those together with what you do together as well. Was that difficult, or did it just come natural?
It's difficult? No, what do you mean?
It's actually come pretty naturally, but Lou went through a very deep training process for her trance channeling, for her channeling.
Oh, that was fun.
She went through and she would wake up every morning and go, oh my God, I had this experience, and this went on for about 6 months.
Yeah,
but we might not have time to share that. There might be another session.
Well, let's move on to the trance channeling. Let's first of all, for those who don't know, because I'm not the most conventional light worker, if that's what you want to call it. I am a little familiar with I am familiar with channeling. Don't get me wrong. Now, trance channeling, as I understand it, is you go into channel, and what's needed to come up comes up. It's never the same thing. It's almost like a customized, a spontaneous kind of thing. You don't know what's going to come up. Is that right?
That's pretty much accurate. What happens for me is I do a bit of breath and ground myself. I set my challenge to the energies that are there. I have a select group that I connect with. And even though I've been working with them for the past decade plus, there is always a challenge. There is always a question and answer and energetic challenges that need to be dealt with before I let an energy speak through me.
Oh, wow. Wow. And does Heather, do you ever find yourself light language or channeling? Does that ever occur?
Yeah, I tend to channel my own energy. I channel my own higher self, which is what everybody, I believe, if I can say, needs to attain, is bringing through their own higher energy. That is the ultimate.
Yeah.
Not everybody is going to do that. Like, not everybody's going to create great artworks. Everybody has to understand where their own strengths are and energy. So I do that, and I have spoken light language, and I do work with the arts, and I went through training period with the healing arts, and it started when I was 28 and had to heal myself from DNA manipulation by the greys and reptilians. So I healed myself through that. And as a result of that, I allow myself to be a conduit of the healing energy to assist other people, and also removing implants and trackers, and also helping and assisting them to repair their own DNA with their intent, realizing that nobody truly is a healer.
Exactly.
I'm a facilitator of their healing.
Exactly. But but you can take them there because you've done it. Yeah, this is good stuff. Yeah, we'll have to do this again. We're going to run out of time. We got a lot to talk about, but I want to. If you guys in a moment, you want to do some trans channeling.
Yep.
Okay. Before we do that, I want to ask you this too, because this is something that's really been popping up lately. It certainly has with Morgan and I. We've made videos on it for the last couple of years with our progression of it. And that is the sacred sexuality vibration. And of course, I'm not talking about just the traditional 3D physical intimacy. I'm talking about a vibration at the core of our essence, our creation seed frequency or vibration that is becoming more and more obvious as we move into the Trinity and this third energy. Have you guys, this sacred sexuality, the connection between y'all as a creative force, is this something that y'all have experienced over the years?
Well, probably so, but I haven't used those words, that terminology. I've probably used different terminology.
There have been times where Heather and I have been aware of an energy that is so soft, so gentle, so creative, so forceful, so powerful. We could be just sitting here talking.
Exactly.
As you say, it doesn't have to be the physical intimacy. It's just in the moment. And it's almost after that time that the creativity flow begins to pulsate through us. And that's when things start to go really, in a manner of speaking, really simply. There's no got to think it out. It just flows.
I believe we're talking about the integration of the divine feminine and divine masculine within each one, which creates the third. That's what it feels like to me. You know, we don't study this stuff, we experience.
Exactly. No, we're talking about the same thing, and I figured that, and that's another show we could do for an entire show, because you said all the key words, and I can feel your frequency. I mean, it is somehow coming back. It's been shut down. Our sexuality was taboo and all that stuff, and and now it's starting to come back through. A lot of it showing itself through connections like the two of you have, which is evidenced by the third energy represented in the physical by the work that you do, and also by this description of what you're talking about, how the creativity and the flow occurs from, and like you said, you could just be sitting next to each other. Yeah, you're about to go in now. Is there any directions? Are there any directions or anything we need to know before you go into this?
No, but if there's an opportunity and you've got a question, then please bring it forward. If there's an opportunity, depending on what energy, I feel like it may be quite an ancient energy. There's been a lot of ancient energy wanting to connect, but I just leave it open. I'm grounding the energy and just in allowance at this time. But, if there's an opportunity and you have a question that's pertinent, then please bring it forward. Or if somebody on the chat has a question that seems to be an appropriateness, then great. But we will just be an allowance at this time and open up our space of being and connection, and just be knowing that all energies that we have connected with have been well challenged, and we create and work with the Council of Many Councils, not in a way of protection, but in a way of enhancement.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
It's in balance. And so it is.
And so it is.
Greetings. We are White Feather. We sit upon that which is the councils of many, bringing into that which is this common narrative, the awareness and the consciousness of that which is the race of enlightenment upon your planet. This is a time of change, a time where you have evolved. In this moment, there is much shedding, much tearing, We, White Feather, have come to see and observe through the many days, years, that you have brought yourself to this moment, to this time, for the experience that many of you have transitioned yourself through. And we would ask the question, for what is your experience for? For many of you have been given ultimate tools, awarenesses. You have placed yourself under the tutelage and covering of multiple great oracles that bring forth the truth of challenge to you. And yet, whilst you are there, you speak of greatness. And when you leave through the doors back into the world that you exist in, you become the acquiescing small individual that you choose so many times to leave, to walk away from. So we ask you in sincerity, in compassion, what is your experience for if you will not learn from it? Humanity, as you know yourselves, has been through this period of cyclic learning for multiple times. When will it be sufficient? When will it be enough? Many of you have passed through. You have exited. You have gone through the dimensional walls and you have observed yourself as the greater energy, as that which is the expandedness of all that you could possibly be. And you have then returned into the physical realm, knowing more than you can hold. And so you begin to emanate the lifelessness around you by speaking your truth. And yet, this has wounded you, for you have seen the degradation. You have seen the shutdown. You have seen the rejection in the eyes of those that you have loved. And so you have chosen to refrain from your truth speaking and allowed yet again the dullness to enter into you. And we, White Feather, would again remind you, what is your experience for? If not, to bring you to the place, to the fulcrum leverage, to take yourself into a paradigm shift that will allow you to take yourself from this place of smallness into the greater expansion of the collective, of the knowing of who you are and the fullness of that which is your expansional truth. Now, there is a difference, dear ones, of knowing and being in truth. For you may know a lot. You may have knowledge that is oozing from the very cells of your body, but it is just mere knowledge, untested, untried, absorbed by because you have listened and taken on board many others' truths. It is not distilled. It is not yours. You have not researched it within the very essence of the very vibration of the divine within yourself. But those that have done this, those who have applied themselves in the very crucible of their own truth, the very divinity within, and have discovered their own truth, their own foundation of expansiveness, and from there are beginning to unfurl their wings, unfurl their sails, to allow the wind of the universe, the source creator, to take them from the place of latitudinal discourse to higher views at a spiritual cognizance of intercourse. For there is no such thing as impasse. It must be either a discourse of the logic or an intercourse of the spiritual. You must have the awareness of coming into the very frequency of the knowledge that you are more than the very vessel that sustains you. You are light, but you are not the equivocable light that is being so bandied around in your circles. You are the light that will cut through the darkness, cut through the dirge and the unnecessary hanger-ons. This light is the light that will cease life and it will bring life. You must have the awareness that when you speak of light, you are speaking of the divine light. The divine light is not that which sits amicably by to just glow a soft humanist glow upon the world around you, but it is a weapon. And when you learn how to use it, you will see how it will both destroy that which is creating the shackles around you and at the same time bring the flower of life to the fullness of that which is the circulatory discourse of creation within you. For you are seeding as you are in the vibration, that which is required for your established growth. If and only if, dear ones, you choose to heed the words shared this day. We are White Feather. We thank you for your time and your attention. Yeah, so white feathers are very expansive. There's nothing to say really. They've said it all for now.
No, I was going to say, yeah, that we shifted gears real quick there. Talk about going 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. That was powerful. That was very powerful. I've seen a lot of channelings. That was very powerful. And it's amazing. The energy speaks. Not that the words aren't relevant, but the energy itself is what speaks with all of us, really. I mean, but to see such a amplified example of that is in itself full of code, very much so. Wow. We talked about lots of things in 60 minutes, and what a way to end it. I want to give you an opportunity, because people have asked, and they will ask, that's typically what happens on this show. You'll get inundated by messages for a variety of reasons. So can you, I'm going to give you the floor. You guys can talk about whatever you want to, but please let us know how we can find you on what social medias. Maybe tell us where to find the books, any other location, websites, anything like that, and anything else you want to add to it. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Todd. Look, really appreciate the opportunity. You can find us on our website at itiscosmic.com. So you've got to put itiscosmic.com. Itiscosmic.com. That's our website, or you can email us at info@itiscosmic.com. There it is. Or follow us on Facebook our Facebook page is It Is Cosmic. We're still on Facebook. We haven't pissed off anybody yet. Only a few followers who have gone off into another direction, which is fine. Then some people come and go. You can follow us on Facebook. We do lives on Facebook, but we're looking at moving over to BitChute and several other places. If you want your own personal messaged copy before we put them up on Amazon or elsewhere. We have a couple of boxes here that we're going to be signing, Lou's signing and putting special messages. God, that energy's strong. I can hardly talk. It can put up the personal messages. We can send them anywhere in the world. And we've already dispatched books to UK, USA, New Zealand, and parts of Australia. So if you want yours, info@itiscosmic.com.
Message us, or you can go onto the actual
You'll
website.
find us.
On the website, there's a link that'll take you to our shop where you can order one, the other, or both. I would advise getting both because it follows in conjunction.
They are a set.
Yeah.
And number 3 is in the pipeline. I can feel it. And I'll know it's in the pipeline because I'll wake up at 3 in the morning and Louise is nowhere around. She's in the office going like that. That's what typically happens, and I can feel it. But so you can have a personal session with Louise if you want to. You can book that. She's obviously it's a paid session. We offer our services in order to bring through service, but we also
absolutely
paid session. Lots of things we do. Go and check it out. I'm having a bit of struggle talking.
Well, we started out laughing and giggling. I see the wisdom in that too. Yeah, a beautiful session, beautiful hour. We'll have to do it again sometime after the first of the year, and I really appreciate. I'm really happy that you guys reached out. You guys are a breath of fresh air. You're full of code, and you're down to earth, and that makes a big difference. Because that combination of the non-physical and the pure physical is a powerful integration that we're all headed for, really. So it's great to see an example, both an individual, in this case, and a couple. I wish you all the best, all blessings to you and yours and everything that you're doing. And until the next time.
Thank you so much, Todd. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd.
And same back to you.
And to Morgan as well. And to everybody who's on here at the moment. Be strong, be true, unity and peace, but remember who you are.
Right on.